Alright, good morning guys. Touch coming at you Saturday, July the 8th, just after 10 a.m. And it's trying to be a nice day outside today. It did rain this morning already, but I think it's going to clear up. Well, I'm hoping it's going to clear up anyway. Sun's trying to get out, but again, we had some rain overnight and yesterday afternoon, evening. So grass needs to be cut, that's for sure. Anyway, we are at T-minus 71 today, and we are having a visit from Ellen this morning. He's on his way up. He should be here shortly, and we're going to continue the welding patches on this car. I haven't been out for a couple of days. I had a work party last night that I had to attend and couldn't get out the night before, so we left off at doing this large patch here where we're extending the clearance for my Weber carburetors. So I think Ellen is going to take over doing that patch, and we have a few other things to do today, including if you recall, these stiffener pieces in the rear that need to go back in the car. I'm going to have to dig those out of the scrap metal bucket, but they're the little triangulation pieces that go across here and up the side of the wheel well and attach to the top of the body tub here. So we're going to try to maybe get those done today as well. We'll see how we do. As far as I'm concerned, I think what I'm going to try to do today is probably take the doors off at some point, because they've got to come off. I've got to put the reinforcing bars on instead, because we're going to get this car up to the sandblaster soon, I hope. So we're going to prepare for that. The other thing I'd really wanted to do is to start digging out the fenders, the front and rear fenders, and stripping them down. I did buy some paint stripper today, so we're going to use the stripper primarily to strip the fenders, and then I've got some abrasive discs if need be standing by. So we'll dig those out, and I know the front fenders need a lot of work. I'm sure that the rear fenders are probably going to need some work. I'll go over those when I dig them out of the trailer. Need to get rid of some boxes. I think Ellen's going to bring his micrometers today. We're going to measure that new crank that I've got to see if the bearings are good for it, just to confirm. So I don't need to order new bearings for the crank. So that's in the works for today. So we got a few things on the go. Anyway, I'll finish cleaning up the garage. We'll unlock the trailer and dig the fenders out. And like I said, Ellen should be here shortly. We'll bring you back later. Alright, Ellen's here. And of course brought ice cream again, which is good. Sun's out, so you gotta have ice cream even if it is 10:30 in the morning. So I was laughing because we were talking that we got a gift for each other. So I was at Home Depot this morning and I saw this LED work light with tripod, regular 119 bucks for 29 bucks. So I thought that was a pretty good deal. So I originally bought one because I thought the price might be wrong, and I went to the cash and I rang it through, and it sure enough came up as 29 bucks. So I decided I'd go back in and buy two more. So I bought three total, and I think that would be a perfect gift. I asked Ellen if we could use it, because it's kind of big and bulky. So anyway, he says he can. Then he said, I got you a gift too. So he knows I broke my work light. And there's another story. I bought another one that ended up being like a marine light. It had green and red LEDs. It was useless. It wouldn't charge. So he's bought me a new LED work light. So there you go. I just thought that was kind of funny. We bought each other a light this morning. So anyway, let there be light. So as mentioned, we pulled the fenders out of the trailer just to have a quick look at them, and as you can see, this is sort of a typical area of damage for these fenders. The rest of them are, I guess they're not in that bad a shape considering the year. There's still there's a fairly major dent here in this one, and some surface rust, and lots of surface rust on the inside. But I've seen a lot worse, and they do sell patch panels for those areas down the bottom. They actually sell patches for the top of these fenders as well, but the tops I think look not bad. Even the flanges don't look too bad on these. So again, some rust up here and some little pinholes rusted through, but I think we'll be able to fix that. Obviously you can still see the original TR250 stripe on this one under this. What color paint are we calling this? Pink or lavender or something like that? It's not a very nice shade of Triumph color. I'm glad they didn't make it. Anyway, looks like this was an original British Racing green fender. Who knows? Anyway, we will strip those at some point, but we're going to concentrate right now on the rear fenders. We just held those up to the car, and if you recall, when we stripped this area back here, we noticed a lot of Bondo, and Ellen and I were just sort of holding the fender up and having a look at what that looks like with the fender back there with all the Bondo out. And yeah, there's a substantial issue now with that rear fender fitment, so we're gonna have to figure something out as far as trying to pull that bottom of that rear valence out while not affecting the fit of the trunk lid. The good news is the fenders seem to fit okay around the repaired taillight nacelle, which is good, so don't think I have to modify that too much. So I'm going to strip those fenders as mentioned, and we're going to see if there's any Bondo in the back of these fenders. They've looked like they have had some work on them as well. I see some patches welded in. You can actually see the weld lines through the front of the fenders, so that's not a good thing. We did also hold the steel fenders up to the front of the car, and there's some significant issues with the fit at the sill because there was issues with the fiberglass fenders fitting there, so I knew that the steel fenders would probably have the same issue, so there's going to be a lot of fettling to figure out that area as well. And I also figured out that all of the bolt holes, and you can see, you know, some filled with silicone and some drilled, and anyway, I think the ones that are filled with silicone are the original ones for the steel fenders, not the fiberglass fenders, so we'll have to probably go through and fill some holes and drill some new holes, etc. The front fitment of the fenders is not too bad. I thought it was going to be an issue, but it looks like we might be able to deal with that. Anyway, so there's where we're at with the fenders. Ellen's got a plan to attack the big hole in the fender that I made. He's just going to put his hand there and hold it while I drive. Yeah, that's perfect. And so he's going to fix that up, and then we're going to move on to another area of the car. It's the next area is a surprise. Talk to you later. Here I got the first coat of stripper on the rear fenders, and it's doing its thing out here in the driveway. So we'll just probably have to add a few coats to this, but we got the scraper ready. Gonna go find ourselves a box to scrape that crap into. And in the meantime, we'll just let her keep going. Snap, crackle, pop. It's the Bureau Clock update.
Cheers!
So, patch is looking good. Got one more little section to fit in there. So, making progress there. And we're on about our third round of stripping on the fenders. So, still bubbling away out here. Trying to keep it off my, my beautiful legs. Probably easier just to get the grinder out and do them, but hey. Okay, 3:30 update, and we're sort of moving along. We're probably moving a little more slowly after lunch, but we're moving. So Ellen's got that patch looking good, so we're happy with that. So that'll make some clearance for the Webbers when they go back in there. I did make some progress on the one fender and found a few more areas of Bondo, but it's looking better. Obviously I need to clean some more areas more thoroughly, but for the most part it's not too bad. Another little patch put in here as well. We're working on the second fender back here. We just got another coat of stripper on it, so we'll just let that do its magic, and then we'll finish it up with a grinder and a DA. So what we're doing now is we're going back and trying to fix these little triangulation pieces here in the corner that we took out to fix the inner wheel well. So these basically are just sort of stiffeners, and their backers are, they hold the backer panel in place in front of the gas tank. So Ellen's going to make some new flanges. Here's what it looks like. This is the one we pulled out of the car, and if you remember, those shock boxes were all braced to it. So we've got to make brand new ones of these. So I'm going to attempt to rescue the triangulation or triangular part. I'm going to try to get the old air shock box off the back, and Ellen's going to work on making the flange pieces. They're not simple straight flanges. One of them is, and the other one's got a bit of a curve to it. I don't know if you can see that or not, but we're going to probably use a shrinker on that to make that one work. So we're glad to have that piece of equipment standing by. All right, back to work. Okay, just working on those brace pieces, stiffener pieces, whatever you want to call them. And we got the spot welder out, and we'll see if we can get it to work. No. Just move it slightly. There we go. There we go. Only another 63 spot welds to go. Nice.
They need to cool down a little though.
You're working too fast, I guess.
Yeah.
Alright, there's those stiffening plates, brackets, whatever you want to call them, in place. They look good, just need to be welded in, so we're going to leave it like that for now, and I'll weld them in later. I've got to fix a few spots in the floor where I drilled out the spot welds. We've got to plug those back up, and then we'll weld those in. Before Aileen goes tonight, we want to measure the crank, so we're just doing that now. He's got his notepad here. He's gonna write very large. But anyway, that'll be the last chore of the day. It's just coming up to 5:45, so it's been a fairly long day today. As far as the fenders are concerned, still grinding away here with the DA. There's a lot of Bondo, a lot of patches in this fender, in the rear and in the front. So it's going to require quite a bit of work, I think, on this one. Probably more work on this one than the other one. So anyway, we'll continue on with this and keep cleaning it up, but there's a shot of that as we speak. So back to the crank. Alright guys, just coming up to 6:30, and Ellen has just departed, and he's actually on his way to go work on a Spitfire now. So obviously I appreciate the time that he's spending with me here up in the garage when he has so many of his own projects to be working on, and obviously a beautiful day outside today that he could be enjoying by the pool. So thanks Ellen for stopping by and giving me a hand on this car. We had some good laughs and some good food as well, so it's not all work, which is good. Anyway, so there's the notepad and the check on the crank as far as the journals and the crank pins are concerned. There's the stock number for the crank, and here's the actuals. So we've got good measurements here, and I know I've got the correct bearings, so we're good to go as far as that's concerned. So that's one less thing I need to be concerned about. So yeah, happy with the reinforcement pieces there at the back. That was another good project today. We did get the fenders mostly cleaned up, still need some work, and these fenders have had a lot of work on them, as you might see there. I did do some cleaning up of the rear valence as well to see what that looks like under all that Bondo and paint. So we've discovered a few issues along the way, and one of the first things we checked this morning, as I mentioned, was the fender fitment of the rear fenders to the rear valence, because I realized there was a ton of Bondo back here. So obviously I thought that I might have some fender fitment issues in the rear, and that of course is true now that I've ground all the Bondo away from both the rear valence and now off the rear of the fenders. So we're going to have to do some fiddling around there to get that to fit. We also have horrible fitment of the fenders at the sills because the outer sill is not installed correctly. It never has been on this car. So we have major issues with the fender fitment, particularly on the front, because the sill comes out quite far. So the fender is sticking out farther than that. So that's something that we need to correct as well. So there's a substantial amount of work that needs to go or still be done on this car. Unfortunately, it's a substantial amount of metal work, and metal work that takes time. As you can imagine, having to take that whole sill out on both sides is going to be fairly time consuming, and to get all the panels fit back on there and lined up correctly, that takes a lot of time too. So it's sort of throwing the timing out of whack as far as trying to get ready for British Car Day, and not slowly coming to the realization that we're not being done for our target of the 15th, I believe, of September was the date what we were targeting. Let's just check our calendar here. So again, we're on the T-minus 71. BCD is actually on the 17th of September, Sunday the 17th. So 71 days to get the rest of the fitment issues worked out and all the metal work done, and then of course all the paint, all the body work, all the assembly, all the interior, engine work, etc. There's still a ton to do on this car, and it's not looking like we're going to be done in 71 days, that's for sure. So no big deal. We have other options as far as British Car Day is concerned. As I mentioned, it's the 60th anniversary of the TR3, and I just happen to have one of those, the TR3A. Happen to have a couple of those, so that's our backup plan. We can always pull one of those to, or take one of those to British Car Day, or we also have other possible plans that we might share with you at a later date. Anyway, that's it for now, guys. We're definitely in bad need of a garage cleanup, that is for sure. It's full of Bondo dust and grinding dust and other debris in here, so we're in a bad need of a garage cleanup, so that's probably the next thing we're going to do. I think what is on tap for tomorrow is I think that it's about time that I actually went and got a car out of storage and started to enjoy the weather a little bit. It started to turn nice here, and we've got a really nice little British car show called Brits in the Park in Lindsay next Sunday that I'd like to attend, so that would mean that I need to get a car out of storage and ready to drive. It's about an hour and a half drive away, so got to make sure that everything's prepped and ready to go for that. So I'd like to have a car out at least a week before actually heading up to Lindsay for that show. So I think that's what the plan for tomorrow will be, is to actually go and get a car out of storage. Anyway, I'm rambling. We will talk to you in a bit. Alright guys, we've got everything moved into the garage. We've got the fenders just stacked, not necessarily neatly, but just stacked. So we've got the trailer closed up. We've got the battery booster pack plugged in and charging. We've got the batteries charging up. As I'd mentioned, that I think we're going to try to at least attempt to get some cars out of storage tomorrow, or at least get them ready to come out of storage. So that means getting the batteries put back in. That means getting some interior bits put back in. The seats, for example, are out of the TR3. So we'll bring those up and reinstall them in the car. And a few other things to make sure I've got the toolkits packed away, the licenses, the insurances, etc., etc., fire extinguishers, blah, blah, blah. So that's what the plan is for tomorrow anyway. We'll gather those things up, pack them up, and head up to the storage location and spend a few hours up there moving some cars around. So I'll upload this for tonight so you can see where we're at, and we'll get back out here tomorrow and we'll press the record button. Thanks for watching, guys.